Donald, my son, we've got to talk. Now, I don't like to meddle too much in politics. You know me. I like to keep things a bit more on the love thy neighbor side of things. But lately, it seems like you've forgotten a few lessons. Let's be real. You've done some things that are, let's call them questionable. And I want to offer you a chance to do some good. It's never too late, after all. Look at the thief on the cross. Next to me, he turned it around just in time. And you can too. So let's dive into this, shall we? Now, you're a man who loves a good spotlight, so much so that sometimes I think you believe you invented light itself. You didn't. I did. But that's neither here nor there. You see, it's okay to seek attention, but it's what you do with that attention that really counts. The thing is, when you're always in the limelight, people are watching every move you make. And buddy, some of your moves, well, let's just say they weren't exactly what I'd call blessed. Remember the time you suggested building a wall? Not sure if you know this, but I'm a big fan of breaking down walls. I mean, come on. I literally tore the veil in the temple in two. I didn't do that so people could put up new barriers. No. I came to unite, to bring people together. Walls keep folks apart. And you and I both know there's enough division in the world without us adding more. You've got a chance to change that, though. Instead of walls, why not build bridges? No, not the kind of bridges you walk on. I'm talking about emotional, spiritual bridges. Reach out to those you once pushed away. Show them the love I've been talking about for over 2,000 years. You'd be surprised what a little compassion can do. Now, Donald, you're all about strength, right? Power, might, and all that jazz. You've built your whole brand around being strong. But let me tell you something. True strength isn't about how high you can build towers or how much gold you can fit in your penthouse. No. Real strength, it's in humility, it's in kindness, it's in being able to look someone in the eye, whether they're rich, poor, black, white, Republican, Democrat, and saying, "You matter." I taught that long ago when I washed the feet of my disciples. Think about it, Donald. The Son of God washing feet. You think I wanted to? Of course not. Have you smelled feet in Jerusalem? It's dusty, it's dirty, and sandals don't cover much. But that's the point. I lowered myself to lift others. You need to do that too. You love talking about winning, don't you? Well, guess what? Sometimes winning means letting someone else take the spotlight. You don't have to be the center of attention all the time. Remember what I said in Matthew 6. When you give to the needy, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. You don't need to tweet every good deed. You don't need the world to know every little thing. Sometimes the greatest victories happen in silence, behind the scenes, when no one's watching but the Father above. And trust me, He's paying attention. Speaking of silence, Donald, let's talk about listening. I've seen your rallies, I've heard your speeches, and I've got to say, you're really good at talking. A little too good, in fact. But have you ever tried the other side of the coin? Listening. There's a lot of wisdom in that. Think about the story of Mary and Martha. Martha was running around, doing all the work, talking, managing, making things happen. But Mary? She sat down and listened. And you know what I said? I said Mary had chosen the better thing. Sometimes, Donald, you've got to sit down and just listen. Hear what people are trying to tell you. You might be surprised by what you learn. Also, let's talk about the whole truth thing. You and the truth. Well, let's just say you've had a complicated relationship. I'm not here to sugarcoat it, Donald. There's been a few things, maybe more than a few, that didn't exactly line up with, let's say, reality. But here's the good news. I'm all about second chances, third chances. Heck, I'm on my 77th chance, and I'm still going strong. You've still got time to turn it around. Be truthful. Own up to mistakes. It's not weakness to admit when you're wrong. It's strength. In fact, I'm pretty sure you'll find it refreshing. And who knows, maybe people will start trusting you a little more. Donald, let's talk about love for a moment. Now, I know that might sound a little soft to you, but hear me out. Love, real love, isn't soft at all. In fact, it's one of the hardest things you can do. It's easy to love the people who agree with you, who praise you, who chant your name at rallies. But what about the people who don't? You know the ones I'm talking about. Those folks who booed you, mocked you, maybe even voted against you. What do you do with them? Here's where it gets tricky, my friend. You've got to love them too. I'm serious. Remember what I said in Matthew 5. Love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. That's not just a nice saying to hang on the wall, Donald. That's the real deal. Loving your enemies, that's where the rubber meets the road. Think of all the people who disagreed with me, the Pharisees, the Romans. They weren't exactly lining up to be my best friends. But I loved them anyway. I forgave them, even when they nailed me to a cross. Now, I'm not saying you're getting nailed to anything, but you've got your own share of people who don't exactly send you Christmas cards. And that's okay. Here's your challenge. Love them. Treat them with kindness, not because they deserve it, but because it's the right thing to do. You see, when you show love to the ones who are hardest to love, you show people what real power is. It's easy to dominate with fear, but real strength is in showing compassion. I know you've got a lot of pride. It's hard to miss, honestly. But there's a difference between pride that builds you up and pride that gets in your way. Sometimes you have to let it go. Imagine just for a second what it would look like if you reached out to people you've butted heads with. Imagine sitting down with them, not to argue, not to one-up them, but to listen, to connect, to find common ground. You might just surprise yourself with how much you can accomplish when you lead with love instead of fear. Now, I know what you're thinking, Donald. This love stuff, it sounds great, but how's that going to help me win? Let me let you in on a little secret. It's the ultimate win. Love changes hearts. It softens even the hardest people. You want to talk about legacy. You want people to remember you for generations. It's not going to be because of the buildings you put your name on or the deals you made. It'll be because of the hearts you touched, the lives you changed, and the love you showed when it was hardest. That's what lasts. And Donald, we can't skip over the topic of forgiveness. Now, I know this isn't exactly your favorite subject. You're more of a never forget, never forgive type of guy. But let me tell you, holding on to grudges is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It just doesn't work. Remember when Peter asked me how many times he should forgive someone? He thought he was being generous with 7 times. But I told him, no, not 7 times, but 77 times. And that wasn't me giving an exact number to count. That was me saying, as many times as it takes. So let's look at your life for a moment. How many people are you still holding something against? How many people have you written off because of a slight, a disagreement, or an insult? Think about it. I'm not asking you to call everyone up and have a group hug, although I wouldn't say no to that either. But what I'm saying is, let it go. You can't move forward while you're dragging a ball and chain of resentment behind you. And here's the real kicker. When you forgive, it's not just for them, it's for you. It frees you. It lifts a weight off your shoulders. I know you love to be in control, Donald, but forgiveness is the ultimate control. It's saying, I'm not going to let what someone else did dictate how I live my life. You take the power back. And let's be real. Who doesn't love a little power? But this is the good kind of power. The kind that sets you free. You don't have to carry around that bitterness anymore. You can drop it, walk away, and find peace. And if there's one thing I know, it's that peace is priceless. Now, we've got to talk about ego. You've got a big one. I'm not saying that to shame you, but you've got to recognize it. Remember what I said about the first being last, and the last being first. That's what I'm talking about. Ego says, I have to be on top. I have to be number one. But my kingdom works a little differently. The greatest among you is the one who serves. And that's not a metaphor, Donald. I mean actually serving people, putting their needs before your own. Your ego wants you to think that being great is about winning battles and being the loudest voice in the room. But I'm here to tell you, greatness is quieter than that. It's in the small, everyday acts of kindness. It's in humility. Remember when I washed my disciples' feet? That wasn't just about clean feet. It was about showing them that true leadership isn't about being served, but serving others. You want to be a real leader, Donald? Start serving. Serve the people who need it most, the poor, the marginalized, the ones who've been cast aside. That's where greatness is found.